American music was changing in the early 20th century. Rural folk music evolved into country, bluegrass, and blues. Jazz was developing. The guitar was everywhere: radio shows, dance halls, even the movies.
Probably the quintessential acoustic guitar from my generation is the Martin D28.
Using a pattern developed around 1916, the Martin Company issued a large pear-shaped guitar in 1931, naming it for the largest class of battleship of the day, the dreadnought.
It started out real slow and didn't sell all that many in the early days. I think in the 40s, really, when people started performing on stage and needing more volume and bigger size instruments, is when the dreadnought started catching on.
When people saw their favorite singers, whether they were on the Grand Ole Opry or Elvis Presley and Ed Sullivan, playing dreadnought guitars, suddenly it became the instrument of choice for singer-songwriters. And you really can't underestimate the importance from a commercial standpoint of seeing a guitar in the hands of a particular person at a particular moment. I think that's had as much to do with the rise of particular designs and the popularity of particular designs as any other single factor.
Sound without feel isn't anything. It's sterile, you know. You have to have sound, feel. So all your senses have to be involved. Weight, balance. It's limitless, you know, and those great guitars seem to have them all.
There's something about old guitars. I think there's a quality of the tone on an aged guitar and a guitar that's been played a lot that you definitely can't get on a brand new one.
J.W. Gallagher once told me, I knew him, built the Gallagher guitars. He was a friend of mine, and years ago he told me, he said, well, Norm, he says, if we could just take a needle, you know, and shoot 50, 60 years of age into one of these things, we'd be getting somewhere, but that's the one thing that we can't do.
There is the physicist's view, where you take an oscilloscope and other high-tech gear and you try to find two guitars that are otherwise identical, except one is 30 years older than the other, and you play and you try to find out what the sonic characteristics might be. But I think there's, in fact, precious little of that kind of highly technical or scientific basis to what a lot of people think about guitars. I think there is a lot of mystery. I think there's a lot of voodoo. I think there's a lot of romance.
I believe sometimes age is overrated. I think that a guitar that's going to be good is really quite good from the very beginning.
On a bad instrument, age isn't going to do any good at all. If the instrument was made right to begin with, it'll get better with age.
Good instruments certainly will improve with age, but it's a subtle improvement. If they're not good when they're 2 weeks old, I'll be darned if I want to sit around trying to bang sound into a guitar for 10 years hoping it's going to get good.
What we're trying to do is to quantify what we do, understand more and more through experience how to voice guitars and tune them, and come up with better sustain, better resonance, and a nice variety for different styles of playing.
I think we're enjoying probably a real golden era in steel string guitar building right now. I think that we are evolving, you know, past the point of the fine instruments of the 30s. I say you give some of the guitars that are around today 50 years, that are being built today, you give them 50 years of hard playing, and they're going to be right up there with any of the old ones. In some ways, they're better.
We don't know how the great guitars that are being built today are going to sound in 30 years. We're going to have to wait 30 years to find out.
Guitars of the future may be very different. New materials will someday replace traditional woods as forests burn or are cut down wholesale to make disposable products.
The resources that are used to build guitars, which is to say wood, those are finite resources. There's no question that we are running out of some of them and have effectively run out of some of them. I think what remains to be seen is the willingness of up-and-coming players and future players to try materials that are alternatives to what we consider traditional guitar building materials. I do think, for the sake of our natural resources, we need to explore alternates to rosewood, alternates to maple, spruce, and we are exploring them, and I think it's inevitable. I don't think we have much choice.
For so long, guitars, not just Martin guitars, but guitars have been made out of rosewood and mahogany and ebony and spruce, that's what people expect, and that's what they think, that's all they can be made of. And that is not the case. And I'm afraid what's going to happen is that there's going to have to be a wood crisis. And then people are going to open up and say, okay, I'll accept alternatives.
You think of the guitar, you think of change, excitement, revolution, rocking the boat and all that sort of stuff. And yet, isn't it interesting that guitar players are often the last people on earth to embrace change when it comes to their own instruments? But that's sometimes the case. And I think it's because if a kid has grown up always wanting a rosewood D45, and you know, now he's a lawyer and he can finally afford one, by God, he's going to get a rosewood D45. Or if he's going to have a guitar built, by God, it's going to be made out of Brazilian rosewood, because that's what he grew up wanting, and now he's going to get it. And he doesn't want to hear about something less romantic.
If you look at all of the wood that all of us who build guitars use, it's not a lot of wood. But those woods that we use are used for other products. And those other products consume a lot of wood. And because of man's position right now on Earth of, well, I better get it today, because if I don't get it today, someone else will get it tomorrow, we are not being real judicious with these precious raw materials.
Instrument quality spruce goes into the household products that we use all the time, paper towels, newspaper, on and on.
It's senseless to waste tons and tons and tons of wood on chopsticks, millions of tons of wood on chopsticks that are just discarded. The paper industry utilizes an incredible amount of wood. Spruce is pretty much the ideal, the optimum wood for nice white paper. It doesn't require a lot of bleaching, and so they often cut young growth spruce, trees which would eventually become guitar wood.
I think we'll see a lot more synthetic materials. I think that we'll see a lot of alternative woods that are sustainable yield.
Guitars are more personal, I think. Even a factory instrument, there's something about a guitar, for me anyway. And guitar players are a breed that has not yet been fitted into a mold. You can't hold them down. They're one, I mean, nobody agrees on how they should be made, and the players all disagree on how they should be played.
Anything goes on the guitar, you know. If you do it good, I think most anything goes, from rock and roll to any kind of hillbilly music.
Different guitars definitely inspire different ideas in terms of the composition, and also just how you would play, how you would solo, and how you express yourself. They give you different potential to work with.
The acoustic guitar didn't originate in America, but its design has been so radically modified here, and the way Americans play so different, that it's become a cultural icon.